let's see if I could do this. So, I decided to come up with a list of changes that I'd like to see in the VA. One of the first ones is the doctors in the VA, they're not held accountable to the patients. It's like when I had private insurance, I'd go to a doctor and I always felt like I was a patient. If they didn't make me feel that way, they'd be out of business. But whenever I go to the VA doctors, it seems like, I have to fight, and sometimes you get some real bad ones. So I like to see like a Yelp system type, implemented where you can rate your doctor from a 1 to 5, and if you have an issue, you can put it in there. And even to be fair to doctors, you could have an arbitrator try and work things out. But when I go to doctors with private health insurance, I do my research, find out who they are. But then let's see. The next thing I want to talk about is the amount of interns in mental health services. I went from my Yale doctor, my Yale psychiatrist, who fine-tuned my meds, and they were for PTSD, Zoloft for anti-anxiety, with an Ambien to sleep. And after I lost my golf illness hit and I lost my health insurance, I went back to the VA, and you're losing 22 veterans a day, and my first 3 psychiatrists were all interns. And every time I asked them, I said, can I get a one-on-one therapist? They say, oh yeah. Never happened. It's pretty bad. And then they all want to argue with my current medications. It's like, I had my Yale doctor for years, and we've tweaked everything. That's how I take it. I don't care if you don't understand it. That's how I take it. And so every time I go see the psychiatrist at the VA, it's an intern. But then, they say stuff like, well, we don't know the other doctor. I'm like, he was a Yale shrink. No offense, you're an intern. But then, I don't want to be rude to him, but it's just weird that I feel like I have to fight every time I see them. But then he says things like, we don't know if you're the doctor, we need to start over. I'm like, well, I get a new intern, a psychiatrist, every 10 months. What, you start over every time? It's horrible. You have way too many interns treating veterans. Especially people who come in talking about PTSD or people with golf or illness. I'll do another thing on golf or illness, and I'll talk about how many doctors have lied to me. It's really shocking. So let's see. In an rating system, you want to look both ways, right? So like if somebody finishes the bottom 5% of the ratings, maybe you try and give them, how to talk to people training or something. But if they're like 1%, just out the door. Then if you're in the bottom 10% 2 years in a row, and they can't train you and get you better, go find a job like euthanizing puppies. You're not good, I believe that. Oh yeah, then I keep reading online, everyone's pissed off about this whole forced opioid reductions. I'm not on opioids, but I read something somewhere about they put in charge this doctor who decided that he's going to force veterans to have reduced opioid reductions. And I know from my golf for illness pain, a lot of guys ended up on opioids to try and fight that. And then when I hear, you hire a doctor whose son died from a heroin overdose, he has a strong bias against opioids, but he's torturing the other veterans. It's disgusting when I read it. Look into that. The other thing is, you should probably rethink your immunization scheduling, like for veterans. And I was one of the ones that one of the 13,000 that took the experimental shot. And when we took it, they told us about it. It's for botulism, and they said, hey, it's not FDA approved, but they tested on mice, and they look like they're going to be fine. If anything ever happens, the VA will be there to take care of you. Oof. I don't agree with that. The other thing is, that's more for the golf or illness thing. Why aren't you guys looking into the soil in Kuwait? Because we fought, it's like the sand that we fought in there, it's like the only place on earth where there's like tiny amounts of bacteria, because there's this fungus. And I don't know, it's just, I never hear anything about it. All I hear about is they're doing a Concord grape juice test, or CoQ10, and hey, donate your brain to us. Oof. Let's see. Then, no, it's more of something else. Anyways, I'm detoxing myself. It's not fun, but no, I don't trust going to the VA when I am this weak. Not at all. Alright, I'll be back with another video later. let's try this again. So, like a lot of people know, there's 22 vets that kill themselves every day. And that's one of the things that really made it amazing for me to see how many interns you have working your front lines. I really think it's too many. My first general doctor that I saw, I did a lot of research online, and like all my Google searches came back and said your cluster of symptoms is Gulf War illness. And then I read the horror stories, like, oh my God, I really hope I don't have that. So she was the first doctor I saw, and she kind of looked me over, gave me like a blood test, stuff like that, and she told me she didn't think the Gulf War illness exists, and that I needed to wash my face and get a job. This was like 3 years ago. Still burns me. So like when I was talking about before with the whole 1 to 5 star comment thing, it's actually 0 star than just bad bedside manners. But then after I saw the 3 interns, I kept complaining, I wanted to see like a real doctor, and this is mental health. I'm a combat veteran. They knew that. But then they finally got me, a normal doctor, and let's see. Okay, so I opened up to him and I told him that I just got my medical marijuana card, and I said, before that my pain was getting so bad that I was thinking about committing suicide. I started planning it, and he was just like, "What? You can't smoke cannabis." He's like, "You're taking Ambien." He goes, "Those are both sedatives." And I just looked at him and I'm just like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Cannabis is a psychotic." I'm like, "You have some strains that make you feel like you go down a little bit, but they're no sedatives, because if you keep smoking it, you only go down so low. You take a real sedative, you overdose." Worst thing with cannabis is like you get this uncomfortable feeling where you kind of green out. And you feel kind of uncomfortable for a little bit. Just, by the way, then the other one, Ambien's Schedule 4 with like Xanax. Xanax is an actual sedative. Ambien is considered a sedative hypnotic. So like if he was an intern or new doctor, I'd kind of expect him to know that. But when he came out, he was just like, "Both of those are sedatives." I'm just like, "You don't know what you're talking about." I'm like, most licensed clinic social workers that I know have a better grasp of pharmacology than this guy. It just blew my mind away. It really did. But, but then he ended up labeling me as someone with cannabis substance abuse disorder because I had medical marijuana card for 2 months. And he labeled me with that, and I was just like, wow. Then when I went to go apply for my benefits, they said, "Well, no, it says right here, you're a dope head." I'm just like, oh my God. So it's supposed to be against federal law for them to deny me benefits, but they did. And it all kind of started with that guy who was just clueless. The other thing I want to talk about is like pill sizes. I have no idea why everyone needs to have a pill size that's twice as big. I mean, the VA can use that size and say, "Hey, look, if you're going to charge us that much more for a normal size pill so the veterans aren't cutting it all the time, then you're just going to have to pay us by pound." It's ridiculous. I mean, my mental disorder is with my brain being reset so much. It's like, my pill cutter will get dull. I keep running out of medications. Am I going to get into that too? I'll probably get into that later. But the pill sizes, I mean, if somebody really, really wants normal pill sizes, we're worth it. We really are. I mean, you're losing 22 veterans a day. These are simple little things that you guys should think of, seriously. And the other thing is, every month I run out of my medications. I have 2 medications, or 3 for my Gulf War illness and PTSD. I take Ambien to sleep. Before I found Ambien to sleep, I drank myself to sleep and eventually became an alcoholic after my PTSD started kicking in hard. The other one, I take Zoloft, which is it's an anti-anxiety with secondary antidepressive effects. And yeah, those are, even though some of the doctors don't think I have PTSD, you'll understand why I do later, but it's just, oh man. I mean, these are 2 PTSD medications, and every month I run out. Then, like, the doctor's gotta, they gotta send me an overnight thing, and I swear, I expect a combat veteran. I mean, why don't you guys just make sure you send me my medication? I'm going to forget because maybe you save a lot of money because I took like 20% less of my PTSD medications, but it's not right. You guys could do a lot better, seriously. But the other thing is, like, you have a lot of guys with like Purple Hearts and Valor medals. I consider a Purple Heart a Valor medal when you bled in battle. But and it seems like whenever I see somebody commit suicide, I look at that and I'm just like, you don't get a Bronze Star, a Silver Star, a Purple Heart, or a Congressional Medal of Honor. I think those are all Valor medals, and you don't get that without a healthy side dish. Or you don't get those in combat without a healthy side dish of PTSD. So it's like, you guys should really be checking up on these guys. I mean, they're not that many of them. And the same thing goes with the women. I mean, my God, 6 times as many female veterans kill themselves as their counterparts? When I found out that about 1.8, male veterans are only 1.8% higher, or 1.8%, you're only 80% higher for suicides. But then I thought that was pretty bad. But then I saw female veterans 6 times? My God. Do a little outreach. I don't know what's going on. I'm a guy, so. But yeah, you could be doing a lot better. So did I cover, Valor medals, blah, blah, blah. I think the other thing is, as far as the Gulf War illness, the VA made a really piss poor decision in like the late 90s. They decided, maybe it sounded good at the time, but they decided that, well, we're just going to treat the symptoms of Gulf War illness as they come up because they can't figure out what causes it. So now, here we are 15 years later, none of the frontline doctors know anything about Gulf War illness, and because they're not held accountable to the patient, they don't have to learn this stuff. And it's embarrassing because you spent $600 million, with the grape juice study and whatever study, and you didn't let a single frontline doctor know. It's embarrassing. Seriously. And yeah, I'm still washing my face, get a job. Unbelievable. I probably got more things. But yeah, I mean, like for those doctors, I'd love to be 0 stars and, then leave my comment. I know more licensed clinical social workers that have a better grasp of pharmacology than this doctor. And it's true. It's just unbelievable. I don't want this to be too long. I'll probably do other things in my take on, wanting to commit suicide, being on a path to suicide, and the impulsiveness. I know I'm not going to commit suicide now. And that's one of the reasons I'm detoxing, because I do not trust the VA doctors, especially when I'm this weak. But yeah, let me, I'll come back. Alright, well, I'm going to try and talk faster because I don't want this to go on too long. Never try and detox yourself. I unfortunately have a functional a functioning PhD in alcoholism, but never do it. It's really dangerous. You have to know what you're doing. One of the things you have to do is keep your blood pressure down, so I'm just going to end it with this one. So if you do, I just read in Facebook that if you have this whole lack of focus where your mind resets all the time, it turns out that a couple weeks ago somebody posted that they've got a doctor who gave him some kind of frontal lobe anti-surgery medication. So, if that works, that'd be great. But I'm probably gonna wait till I just get my Medicaid card too. So I have to wait till I get my Social Security disability. Then I'll go to try and get supplemental insurance. Hopefully, it's not going to cost me a ton. But the other thing that really bothers me is not only did they not let the frontline doctors know about the Gulf War illness, they didn't let any of the veterans know. And I almost never see any news attention to it. But then I did my own research, and it's sort of like early on you start with 50,000 after a couple of years, and they started looking into it. But then it's sort of it was 12 to 10,000 every year. But then now I think it's 8 to 10,000. So it's slightly curved, but it's like almost linear. And now half of us have three or more, or have symptoms in three or more of the 6 categories. And you're not letting any of us know. I'm pissed. I was cut down to my prime. I'm homeless now. It's embarrassing. How could you not be letting us know? You can't figure out 22 a day? I'm going to help you figure out 22 a day. Oof. And the other thing is, I had to read studies about why I can't have bandages on my face so long. I had to read about the immune system dysfunction. Your doctors don't know anything about it. And yeah, I know that cannabis works for the Gulf War illness symptoms because I'll challenge some doctors and they'll tell me cannabis is bad, and I'll just say, hey, okay, so tell me what you know about the endocannabinoid system. And their eyes will kind of light up, and yeah, it's part of your body. I said the number one receptors, in your head and your body, the number one receptor type are cannabinoid receptors. When you're younger, you don't need as many because your body's producing a lot. A lot of these ailments that people get when they're older, it could be an endocannabinoid thing. I said, so tell me why you don't think I have an endocannabinoid deficiency. She's like, well, no, it's like heroin, or it's like, oh my God. And they always listen to me with their mouth and not their ears because they're not being held accountable. But 10,000 new cases a year. The other thing is, try and find out what the trigger event is. I hate going on the Gulf War illness discussion groups because I always read about the next person. It's like, I got this going on and this. It's like, is this illness real? Tell them about it. My God, you can't figure out 22 a day. It'll be hard at first because when you let all 697,000 of us know that half of us have symptoms, and you didn't let any of us know, and the progression's been almost linear, you're gonna feel betrayed. But you gotta do it. My God. I don't want this to go on too long. But yeah, do me a favor and throw me a retweet. Godspeed.